Hello everyone, welcome back to Joyful Learning 365 YouTube channel. So today we are going to discuss an in-depth analysis of the business rules in Microsoft Dynamics 365 CRM. So business rules plays a major role in Microsoft Dynamics 365 CRM. It's a completely low code, no code concept. So here to achieve the business validations, we'll use the business rules in Microsoft Dynamics 365 CRM.
What is the reason behind that we try to use the businesses? Basically, see, only designing a form and creating a form fields will not achieve your requirement. Will not You are not able to satisfy your client, or you are not able to satisfy your end users. So you need to perform some validations. Okay, you need to perform some validations. For example, so there is for example, on basis of some conditions, you might need to hide some field. On basis of some conditions, you might need to show some fields. On basis of some conditions, you need to lock the field. On basis of some conditions, you need to you need to update the value. On basis of the some conditions, you need to show something error messages. On basis of some conditions, you need to edit something. Okay, you need to make some value null. So such type of a scenarios are there. Okay, so to overcome with those scenarios, business rule is the one of the solutions. Now, why this business rule plays a very crucial role? What is the role of this? Let's try to understand more in depth. So, the first of all is business role is a out of box component. When I am saying out of box component means here we don't need to do any customization. Only we need to drag and drop. Like how, for example, in any software, if you want to customize the product, so most of the softwares you need to write the coding. Okay, but here Microsoft has been provided you, so without using the coding, some of the validations you can achieve the requirements by through the out of box codes itself. So Microsoft has been designed some of the inbuilt component. Among the inbuilt component, this is the one of the component called business rules, which will handle the which will handle the business validations. So that's the reason Microsoft has been named as a business rule. Okay, so let's try to understand what is business rule interface. So for example, here, so let me try to go you and show you. So every entity we have a underneath of the form views fields, there is a business rule component is there. Everyone agree with me, right? So here, as you can see on the screen, there is a left hand side business rule component is there. Okay, simply I will go here and click on the new button. Okay, once you click on the new button, so there is a one window will get open. So in that window, so whatever the open window is there, so like this, the picturization will be appearing to you like this. Okay, so like this, it will be start appearing to you. So this area has been divided into a three categories by the Microsoft. Okay, this is the first category, and this is the second category, and this is the third category. Like this, Microsoft has been divided like three categories. So here we try to see right hand right hand side, what is the, see, basically here we have a conditions and action items which we can perform in the out of box workflows. Sir, is it possible that all the whatever the validations are required for the client, those all we are able to do it with the business rules? No, we cannot do it. we have only 7 action items. What are those? See here very carefully. We have 7 action items. What are those? Only 7 controls we can do. Okay, 7 things we can validate and control on these forms. So what are those? The first one is recommendation and locking and unlocking the field and showing error message on basis of some condition, setting the field value and setting the default value and setting the business required value and setting the visibility of the field. Okay, like this, we have a 7 action items. As you can see on the screen, we have a 7 action items we can see. So on top of that, we have a conditions. Wherever we required a conditions, there we can keep a condition. So these are the action items and this is the condition. This is about the right hand side category. Okay, now let's try to understand what is, see here, the top hand side is whatever he has been given. Here the flexibility has been given. See this here I am giving here, this is the flexibility has been given to give the your business rule name. So for example, custom I am show hide, for example I am using this show hide. Okay, show hide xyz XYZ fields. Okay, I'm giving it the name at the show hide XYZ fields. So basically, here we have a flexibility. Microsoft has been given a flexibility to give the name. By that name, whatever the name has been provided by you. So on basis of that name, the business rule will be get saved into the Dataverse. So as of now, as you can see on my screen, that I have given a show hide XYZ fields as a business rule name. After that, I am clicking on the save button. So as you can see here, it is minimum. It is asking 1 action item and 1 conditions is required. Okay, so we'll keep aside for a few seconds for this saving functionality. So and try to look into the this top ribbon buttons. What is these top ribbon buttons are going to say us? So as you can see here, wherever in any universe we have a save means saving the button. That's it. Okay, validating means whatever the logic we have dragged and dropped and we have designed, whether the logic is correct or not. If you want to evaluate, so you need to click on this button, validate button. Once you have clicked on that button, so that it will check the validate. Okay, now scope. Okay, scope plays a major role in the business rules, and it's a very important interview question. Okay, so let's now again deep dive into the now theoretical part. Let's go here. See, what is the scope in a business rules? Basically, we have a 3 types of the scopes in the business rules. What are those 3 types? Means see, one is the entity level, and second one is the all forms, and third one is the individual form. Okay, so here you have seen here this documentation, right? So now let's see here and go to the business rule. As you can see on the screen, so there is a scope button is there. Beside of the scope button, there you can see one of the drop down. So once you click on the drop down, there are multiple options you are able to see. As you can see by how I have documented here in the PPT, like in the same way, as you can see here, this is the first scope type is entity, and the second type is all forms, and the third category is information. Okay, here it might be, as of now we have only main form only one. Okay, so that's the reason information is the only one form you are able. Might be how many forms you are able to see, those all forms you are able to see here. So now let's try to see deep dive into what is mean by entity level and what is mean by all forms and what does mean by individual form level. Okay, now let's try to understand this one. Okay, see, as you can see on the screen, I have documented some of the definitions to you, which might be useful to you in front of the interviewer when you are saying something. So Add on to that one, simply I can say in simplest word, see, basically there is, see, two things will be there. Okay, so what are the two things? So anything, it will be working in a server side and client side. Okay, agree with me, right? So basically, client side will be working in the front side. Okay, and server side will be the working in the back end side. So when you use to select the scope as a entity, it will execute as a server side. Okay, this is the one of the most important answer. Okay, most important question and most important answer. If you set the entity scope as a, if whatever the business rule you are have designing, if you set the scope as a entity level, then it will execute as a server side execution. Okay, server side execution. Now again, if I select if I will select all forms. For example, see here in my screen. So yesterday, if you see, we have designed a multiple forms, main forms, like a one of the normal form, and again one main form, one custom form, and again sales team one form, a marketing team one form. So if you see, if you have written a business rule logic, if you set the all forms, then it might be reflect a sales team form and service team form and marketing form. So by this functionality, all the functionalities will get disturbed. So that is the reason. So if it is required to be set in the all forms, then only you need to use the all forms as a scope. Now the final individual forms. See here, for example, there are a one entity in, we can create a multiple main forms. Agree with me or not? Yes, agreed. Everyone agreed. Okay, now see here, if you want to, there like a, for example, one form was created by the sales team, and one form was created by the service team, and one form was created by the marketing team. So whatever the logic you are writing, basically that logic, for example, you are working for the sales team, and that particular logic needs to be executed by only for the sales form. So at that time, what you will select, you will select the scope as a individual form. In that individual form, you will select the scope as a sales form. Okay, so by that, only whatever the logic you are writing, it will execute only for the that particular sales form, sales team. Okay, and remaining area, it won't get impacted. Okay, see, there are multiple different types of a customers are there. So your customer, your stakeholder, for sales team there is a different director, and for service team there will be different director, and marketing team there will be different director. So according to the requirement, for example, they might be, everyone was using the same entity. Battalion entity was using by the sales team, battalion entity was using by the marketing team, battalion entity was using by the service team. But they required a validation in the battalion entity in different way, for the sales, for the marketing, and for the service team. Okay, like this, they need a different types of validations. So according to their requirement, we used to customize the business rule. So here we need to, so here very small step, but here there is a might be a chance. So interviewer might ask you this question. So I can admit that. See, if you get this question, for example, your interview is 30 minutes. So if you got this question, you can consume first 5 minutes. You need to consume. Tell me about yourself. So 5 minutes will be closed down. Now remaining, you have a 25 minutes in your bucket. So in this 25 minutes, if such questions you got, so you can kill the interviewer time again 5 minutes, because these are very small and easy topics where you can get where you can score more marks in the interviewer. Okay, so it looks very small step, but interviewer must, and most importantly, most important question, this one. Okay, it was a frequently asking question by the interviewers. So as you can see in the interviews, like it's not only prepared by the my document. So if you see others also documents also, there is every document, this question was included everywhere. So that's the reason, this is scope concept you need to understand. So simply here we are selecting, that's it, entity. But in as a developer, so you should be aware why you are selecting that entity, why you are selecting all forms, why you are selecting individual form. So for example, what interviewer will ask you, what happened if I select a scope as a entity level? Simply you need to answer like this to interviewer. So hey man, if you set the business rule scope as a entity level, then it will work as a server side. So whatever the wherever the field is available for that business validation, it will work for everyone, every whole instance. This entity, wherever this entity was using, it might be sales team or it might be marketing team and any model driven app. It not only this model driven app or any other model driven app also, if they are using this entity, all get impacted. If you want to impact, everyone needs to get impacted, then you will set the scope as a server side, scope as a entity level, then it will work execute as a server side. Okay, this is a answer you need to say if they ask you about the scope as a entity level. Then again, so they will again ask you, they will cross question you, then what is the reason behind that all forms? There is already all forms is there, but why we have this entity form also? See here, all forms will be executing as a client side. Okay, so all forms will be executing as a client side. So here basically the client side, so only for example, we have a in one entity, we have a only business rule. I am saying again, make a note, business rule will execute only in the main forms. Business rule will not work in the create form. Business rule will not work in the QB form. Business rule will not work in the called form. There are four types of forms we have in the Dynamics 365 CRM. Out of four different types of forms, business rule will work only for the main form. Okay, make a note of your in your whatever the notes you are documenting. So make a note in those in those books, and as a make a highlight that point. Business rule will work in a main form. So business rule will not work in the QV form. Business rule will not work in the quick create form. Business rule will not work for the card form. Okay. So make a note. So here, whatever the logic we are discussing, so with respect to of the main form only. Okay. Keep in a mind. Don't get confused when interviewer try to confuse you. Okay. So here now interviewer ask you, tell me the difference between the all forms and individual form. For example, if you select the all forms, for example, in one entity, we have a battalion entity. In battalion entity, we have a 10 main forms. Okay, 10 main forms. 10 main forms. So if you select the all forms, business rules validation will work for the all 10 forms. Okay, all 10 forms. If you select the scope as a all forms. If again, if you select the scope as a individual, means see here in the scope, as of now, I'm only have a one form, single form. So that's the reason I'm able to see only single information sum. So here I can select which, for example, individual form, I can, which form you want to execute, only you can select that particular form, and it will business will execute only for that particular form. Okay, it won't execute for the others. Okay, this is the one of the most important interview questions. It looks very small validations, but interviewer will try to smash you here, and they try to aggregate you here. Okay, they try to evaluate you here. So these are the some of the PPTs has been prepared by me. I hope like Abhishek will share with you soon once this demo has been done. Okay, so here one of the more again one of the important topic is here there are seven type of actions is supported in the business rules. So we'll discuss this all seven types practically one with one examples. Okay, so we'll discuss everything in example. Okay, now let's try to see one by one. Okay, let's try to start one by one of the action items and how we can use this business rules. Okay, let me start. So here, as of now, I set the scope as a entity level because this is the trial instance and everywhere it needs to be get executed. So it's not an issue. So that's the reason I have kept it for here. So it's up to you. You can see whenever you're practicing something, right? So at the time, try to set it as a all forms and try to set it as a only for the individual forms. Try to create the multiple forms and play with this business rule so that you'll get more idea on it. Okay, if you're feeling or saying something, so you can reach out to me. I'll help you out there. Okay, so as of now, as you can see here, I'm setting the scope here it as a entity level now. So here, so as you can see, this is the condition. So for example, now I will take a scenario of the my client. Okay, my client requested me, my stakeholder requested me. For example, see, there is a one scenario, real-time scenario. For example, the let's take on like as a real-time scenario and try to explain you a few things about it. So let me go to the random access entity and design a such a real-time of a scenario like this. Okay. So this is the random access record. Okay. Okay. So there is a one requirement by the customer that there is a field called a username field. Okay. There is a username field. Okay. If customer say like this, if column, username column does not contain a data, okay, a username column does not contain a data, then then log this time limit field. Okay, log the time limit field. Okay, log the time limit column. Time limit column or attribute or field, any even three words, same meaning. Okay, field, column or attribute. If anyone saying anything, don't get confused. Column is also same thing, attribute is also same thing, column is also. So for one person have a multiple nicknames. For example, you might be calling it as a like a Suresh, and your nickname might be Tinku, and your friends will be calling you as a Papu. So like this, you have a multiple names, right? So in the same way, here Microsoft terminology also having a multiple names for the one technical component. So column we used to call it as attributes. Attributes is also called as the fields. Okay. When I am saying column, when I'm saying is also as a, you can refer it as the attribute or fields. Okay. Don't get confused. Okay. Now here my requirement is if username column does not contain data, then then log the time limit column, then log the time. So basically, what is the requirement is from the customer whenever a record, any record, okay, it's not only for the single record. So in the random access entity, let me add in detail about the in random access entity, okay, random access entity. Okay, in random access entity, if username column does not contain a data, then log the time limit column. Okay, this is the requirement from the my customer. This is the requirement from the my customer. Now let's see here by using the business rule, how can I achieve this without writing a single line of a code? How can I achieve this requirement? So before business rules has been came into the Microsoft Dynamics 365 CRM, we used to write a JavaScript, and for this small requirement also we used to write the JavaScript and server side plugins. But Microsoft has been launched a product, a business rule component. So by using this one, we can easily do without having a zero coding knowledge. So let's see here. So here we have understood that if random access username does not contain, this is the random access entity. In random access entity, if username does not contain data, then immediately I need to lock the time limit field. Okay, so as you can see here, so we didn't return any validation. It is working as expected. If, for example, if I am removing this data also, it's working. Still, I am able to edit. It's not it get locked. For example, if I am keeping also data, it's not a because as of now nothing is handled. So let's try to see here. Let's try to practically here and try to work in here. So simply here, so here I selected this one. So as you can see here, this is the random access entity. In the random access entity, here field is there. So underneath of the fields, here you are able to see all the fields of the random access entity. All the fields of the random access entity. What my customer told, what my client told, if user name column. So I need to take a, this is the condition. Okay, conditional branching. So here I'm designing a condition if username. So this is the username. Okay, if username. So here I have taken this field, username field. Now again I have designing here operator as a does not contain data. Okay, here does not contain data. See what which sentence has been used by the my client does not contain data. So in the operator, I'll search for that particular sentence and I will select that one. So as you can see here, this is the sentence which has been mentioned by the my client and my stakeholder to implement this one. So user name does not condition. Okay, this is the conditions. If see by defaultly a tree has been designed by the business rule if username does not contain data, a condition has been taken here. Now in the components, see here we have a 7 types of components, 7 type of action components in the business rule. Out of this we'll try to understand lock unlock component. Simply see here, this is the if a condition. If you want to go here if side, then this is the else side. Okay, yes means go here. What you want to do it in a yes condition, you can write add it the drag and drop here control from here to here. If you want to insert a drag a no condition, whatever the logic you are planning to do, you can do in drag and drop that particular component for action item from there to here. So simply what I am doing here, as you can see, I am dragging this lock and lock action item from here and simply I am dropping here. So here, what is my requirement? If this one in random access entity, this done. Okay, this is done. I'm splitting it into different part. If username does not contain data, this is also done. Then lock the, if it does not contain, then lock the time limit field. Okay, then here see clearly it has been done. Now lock. So okay, in the lock, still again here lock also you are able to see all the fields, whatever the fields are available in the that particular entity, random access entity, right? Now I am creating the business rule in random access entity. When you are practicing with any custom entity, in that custom entity, whatever the fields are there, you are able to see all those fields in this particular section. Okay, so here my client told me lock the time limit column. Okay, what I am here, I am searching for that time limit column. So this is here, lock the time limit column. Okay, now simply I am selecting here and clicking on the apply button. Okay, now lock. Else, if the condition, then condition I have designed. Now else unlock this one. Okay, I don't want to unlock this one. So in this condition, what I need to do here, so as you can see here, unlock, right? So here first is initially I need to select. So by defaultly you can see here it has been set to lock. So this is the reason I have selected here. In the else condition I need to do it a unlock, right? So what I will do here, see the action item I will select here it as a unlock, and here which field unlock you want to unlock. So I need to unlock time limit and click on this one apply button. So you can see here this by defaultly If username does not contain data, then lock the time limit field and else unlock the time limit field. So here lock again I have selected it as a lock. So now simply I'm selecting it as an unlock and trying to save. So as you can see, now you can refer this one. So this is the business tree which will be get auto populated in the business rule. Okay, so as you can see here, first I have taken one condition. I simply dragged and dropped a action item from here in the if side, and again else side also have dragged and dropped. Now what I will do here, so simply I will go and click on the save button. Okay, after clicking on the save button, see here, after clicking on the save button, one button will be getting able to appearing, start appearing to you. That is the button called a activated button. So let's wait for a few seconds until it's getting processing completed. So as you can see on the screen, so as I told you that after saving the first time, you are able to see the activate. So make sure if you have written a business rule only till saving the business rule, it's not completed. Your job is not completed. You need to save that business rule and make sure you need to activate that business rule also. Okay, you need to activate that business rule also. Simply you need to click on again activate button. So again it will ask you, are you sure you want to activate this? Again you will ask, it will prompt a message in that you need to click on the yes. Okay, so as you can see still it is getting processing, so we'll wait for a few seconds. So as I told you that suggestion model pop-up has been opened. So in this model pop-up you need to select the yes, then it will get saved. Wait for a few seconds, it's get loaded. See, it depends on the internet connectivity, and it depends on the some of the it depends on the connection, and sometimes it might take some time. Okay, don't get panic if something is not working immediately. So as you can see here, it's got loaded successfully. After that process activation confirmation, do you want to activate this selected resource? Then click on the activate button. Simply have successfully activated this business rule. Okay, now it's getting activated. So wait for the progress bar can complete the process. So let's see here, it's get landed. So after activated, the button activated but getting hidden, and it will appear into you deactivate. Now we have designed a business rule successfully. We saved business rule and we activated business rule. Now our job is that we'll go into model driven app application and let's check whatever the business rule has been designed by us, it is working as expected or not. Okay, let's go and see here. So this is the model driven app application which is ours. Okay, let's try to refresh this browser multiple times until the changes got reflected. So sometimes there might be a cache issue will be there. So it was the changes whatever you did, right? So it won't reflect immediately. So you need to do multiple times cache refreshment. So as you can see here, I have I opened right now till multiple accounts in one again different profiles. So for me it will take a quite lengthy process, but for you I think it will reflect immediately. Okay, simply now user name have data. See here, are you observing or not? Now time limit got locked. Time limit got locked. It is not allowing me to edit. For example, I am giving something Navya Navya at the rate 3246 like this I have giving. So after that, see, it is allowing me to edit this column. But this, for example, I am removing this username from here and sticking on this immediately. It is locking this requirement. So this is the expectation was given by the my client. So which have been achieved by the by the by me through you by using the business rules. Okay, so first whenever you are got a requirement try to achieve that requirement by using the out of box. Okay, don't go straightforwardly to the code, straightforwardly to the writing the simply JavaScript and simply plugins. Okay, there is already out of box features are there, like business rules and workflows. If those two features are not able to support, then I suggest you to go with the JavaScript and go and write the custom like a custom workflows or custom actions or plugins. After that only it's allowed. So like this, see, easily we have achieved. If you want the same thing, you want to do it through the JavaScript, there are syntax we need to write, and we need to show and so syntax, and we need to get the value, we need to write the something. So here simply dragging and dropping. So now here again will come into the picture. So out of 7 action items, we have successfully completed one of the action items. Okay, so let's for today, that's it for today. And we try to concentrate some more questions of the interviews on these business rules. Okay, now as you can see, these are the advantages of the business rules. Okay, so these are whatever the 7 features we have, those all are the advantages of the features only. Okay, we can set the field, we can clear the field values, and we can validate the field values and show error message. We can hide the field, we can show the field, we can disable the field, we can hide the field, we can create a business recommendation. So these are the advantages of the business rules. So interviewer might ask you advantages. So most of frequently they won't ask you advantages. So mostly interviewers will ask you, they are only a little bit worried about the disadvantages. What are disadvantages is also we have to call it as a limitations. Limitations. What are the limitations? So as you can see on the screen, these are the business rule limitations. See here, these are the, I have documented some of the business rule limitations. These are very important interview questions. See here, business rule, the first question. So business rule, first limitation, business rule will not work if the business rule associated fields are not available in the form. Okay, so you are writing business rule, but that business rule, whatever you have written, that business rule field, for example, you are writing business rule for the username. That username field is not available in the form, then your business rule will not work. So that is the limitation. If you are writing a business rule, that should be exist in the form, then only the business rule will execute. It's clear, right? So this is about the first limitation. And again, business rule cannot trigger when the record is saved. See, business rule triggered unload whenever a form is getting refreshed, right? At that time, business rule will work. If you are changing something, like if I'm editing something, I'm removing this name and trying unchange, it will be good. But when I'm trying to save the record, at that time business rule will not work. Okay, this is the one of the major limitations. In interviewer will ask you couple of questions on this business rules, and this is the very easy area where you can mark more, where you can get a more marks in the interview. Okay, so here as you can see here, so this is the business rules cannot trigger in the answer. Now let's try to see business rules. Business rules cannot interact with the tabs, sections. See, we have in the battalion entity, if you remember or not, earlier we have designed in the previous sessions, we have designed different tabs like this general tab and section. So business rules, we cannot get a control of the, for example, if you want to hide this particular all tab directly by the business rule, it is not able to achievable. It is not able to do. We cannot hide this particular tab. We can hide only, we can show, and we cannot show and we cannot hide tabs and sections by using the business rules. Okay, it's clear, right? And again, JavaScript on-change event will not trigger if the same. Okay, see, this point is saying that, see, there is some contradiction will be there. See, basically, whatever the business rule is there, right? So whatever the business rule is there, right? What happened? So if you write, you are dragging and dropping, backend, what will happen, you know? So this all business rule will convert to the JavaScript. Okay, so you are, for you, you are appearing it as a dragging and dropping method. backend, once you drag it and drop it, after that by defaultly there has been custom code has been written by the Microsoft, which will convert this particular drag and drop to the JavaScript code, and it will execute in a JavaScript format only. But in your side, from your perspective, it was appearing it as a drag and drop method. Backend, again it will execute in the JavaScript side only, JavaScript only. So that's the reason, as we can see here, if there is one contradiction between this JavaScript and business rules, because see, those both will convert into the JavaScript, and finally the business rule will work in a JavaScript format only. So now let's see. JavaScript on change will not trigger if we set the value of using the rules to any field. Okay, so that is the main limitation. So as you can see here, so this is the one if else condition which you have used. Like this, how many if else conditions I can use? Single business rule. Interviewer will ask you question this one. So like this conditions, you can use, how many if else conditions you can use? 10 if else conditions you can use. So how many? 10 if else conditions supported in the business rule. Okay, 10 if else. Like I have explained you with one conditions. So in the same, if you want to more little bit more complex, it will become. So how many if else conditions you can use? Like this, add on till 10 conditions I can add on in one single business rule, in the same business rule. I'm again saying in the same business rule. If you are creating new business rule, in new business rule, again 10 conditions you can add. But within the same business rule, you can use only 10 if else conditions. How many? 10 if else conditions you can use. Okay. So now business rule will not work during the bulk import and bulk edit. So when you are importing the data from the other platforms, through the, it might be through the Excel sheet, or it might be from the third party websites, at that time business rule will not work. Okay, now business rule will not only get the data from the, see here, so there is a random access entity and battalion access having a parent child relationship. So you know that. So we have a relationship. But if you are creating the business rule for the random access entity, only you are able to access the, you are able to see the fields of the random access entity fields only. You are not able to get the control of the related entity, means battalion entity record details, record fields, control you cannot control, because only local entity, for which entity you are creating, only that entity we are getting. But in this scenario, what I need to do, sir? Simply you need to write the JavaScript. There is no other option. There is no other option. You need to write the JavaScript. If you want to get the control of the other field also, other entity, parent child entity relay from that relationship, if you want to get the control, and on basis of that field, if you want to do some validation, show and hide, at that time this is the business rule formula will be not suggested for you. Okay, so this is the one of the business rule. Okay, now see, business rule will not execute in a order. It will execute in their own order. So there is no control. See, for example, so you are a human being. So you are daily waking up early morning and going for washing your teeth, cleaning your teeth, and taking a bath and wearing clothes, like going to office. This schedule has been designed like this, right? So every time we will. But like this, you cannot, you don't have a control. So for example, one entity we have, random access entity we have, for example, any custom entity or any entity we have. In that entity, we have a 10 business rules. Okay, 10 business rules we created. For example, one business rule was created by the Pavan Kalyan, one business rule was created by the Chiranjeevi, one business rule was created by the Prabhas, and one business rule was created by the Allu Arjun. Like this, all persons, these all persons created one business rule. Okay, so now my client saying me, so I need to execute first Prabhas business rule. I don't want, after that Allu Arjun business rule. After that, whatever the Allu Arjun created business rule is there, right? So that business rule I need to create. After that, the third one I need to create the Chiranjeevi business unit. So is it possible? No, it's not possible. So execute business will execute in a first in first out concept. So whoever get a, it is a own run in own order. We don't have any control which needs to be get executed first, which needs to be get executed second. We cannot control business rule action item. That is the limitation. Okay, simply clear call out you need to give with very high confidence in front of the interviewer. You need to say this answer. Okay, now see, if something wrong happened, okay, when you have written business rule, something wrong happened. So business will rule will won't throw any error. It won't show a message that something wrong happened. Why? That is the limitation from the business rules. Same thing if you have something wrong happened with the JavaScript, immediately it will throw an error. Same thing if you are writing something happened, some logic you have written in a different way, or some fields are missing, something you there. So immediately a plugin will also throw an error like a invalid exception error. This is the missing. Okay, from that error you can easily identify that what happened. But here in the business rule, we don't have a control that we cannot identify that what is the mistake you have done. So simply you need to go individually each and every component by you need to verify by yourself, and you need to do all the changes, okay, by yourself. Okay, like this, then only we need to do that one. So there is no there is no such a plugin trace logs or like a debugging. You cannot debug, you cannot trace something. So there is all manual efforts you need to do in the case of the business. Okay, that is the limitation from the business rule. So as you can see here, so there is business will whatever the CRM you have been created, is that only will be completed by the 7 action item? No, plenty. In plugins, if you see, there are 300 plus messages are there. So in Power Automate, you can say 200 plus connectors we are connecting. Why they have created that? So these are the only 7 basic. Okay, 7 basic action are there. If you want more, then this is the business rule will not suggest only whatever this. Then why we have these business rules? Is it is a step by step has been created by the Microsoft. So before that, earlier we don't have a Power Automate. We don't have a so like this one by one components. So before that, in a starting state, it has been created. Now, like a one by one, we have it been using. So these are the about the business rules. Okay. Now I will ask one question. Uh, Business rule will execute first or JavaScript will execute first? Execute first. Business rule will not execute first. What is the reason behind is because see, if you write a business rule also, business rule need to business rule need to convert the JavaScript only, and after that it will execute. So there is a conversion time is there. Okay, for example, it is conversion time is a 30 seconds. If you write the JavaScript, then you don't need to do any conversion. Then you don't need to do any, immediately it will execute. So that's the reason JavaScript will execute first. Okay, which one execute first? JavaScript will execute.
That's it for today. Let's meet in upcoming session. Thank you very much for watching Joyful Learning 365 YouTube videos. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe the Joyful Learning 365 YouTube channel.